Coffee Audio Network.
All right, let's get this thing started. Now, what is the name of this podcast? I forgot.
Where are you going?
You are an idiot. You are going to hell. That's
Why would you go there?
Why would you go there?
Yeah.
Okay, welcome to Why Would You Go There? I am Troy, and this is my
bestie.
Yeah. Let's not go. Why would I go there? No, this is somebody that I know, Lee. And this is the podcast about travel. Just a couple of idiots talking about places we've been and things we think you should do there. And let's not do this whole thing like we did the last few times where you just talk about how many places you've been. Everybody knows you've been
because you're
everywhere.
embarrassed. I get it.
Yeah. Everybody knows you've been everywhere. Today we're going to talk about
New
York City.
The Big Apple.
The Big Apple. It's the Big Apple. I thought it was a big pear. It's a Big Apple. Big Apple. Okay.
Sure. It's the city that never sleeps.
The big apple, the big fat apple. So yeah, it is the, I don't either. It's, start spreading the news. It is the city that never sleeps, I guess.
You don't think so? You think they sleep there?
Yeah, not if you go to Times Square. You're going to see that they
true.
don't sleep at all. I don't know how you can sleep anywhere around there.
We're going to get to Times Square.
Good, okay. Let's, not to get ahead of ourselves, but okay.
Was that your segue?
That was
too
not,
early.
It was not my segue. Just calm down.
Okay, sorry.
So I think the first thing that we want to talk about when we start talking about New York City is how to get around.
That wasn't the first thing I wanted to talk about.
Okay, what is the first thing you want to talk about? What's the first thing you want? It says right there, New York. I'm looking at the big whiteboard. It says New York intro, which I thought we just babbled our way through. And this is getting around. So we're going to talk about how to get around. What else?
I just wanted to talk about the 5 boroughs just to kind of introduce
Okay, talk about
New
the 5
York.
boroughs.
No, forget it.
I want to hear about them. Let's hear about them.
Okay, there is Queens, the Bronx, Brooklyn, Jenny from the Bronx, by the way, Staten Island, and Manhattan, which is primarily what we're talking about.
Okay.
So that's your intro right there.
Great.
People could not live without that.
Okay, good. Let's talk about how to get around.
Okay.
Hey, remember when I said earlier, let's kick it up a notch and be funnier?
I don't recall that.
It.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Well, let me know when you key in on that, and I'll get started on my part too.
So let's talk about how to get around in New York City.
So, gosh, it's a city, so you can get around any way you want to. But you can start with the subway. Gosh, it is so complex and difficult,
and dirty.
Yes, it is a little dirty.
We talked previously about Boston, cleanest, easiest subway in the country, and New York is
Not
on the
the same.
opposite end of that scale. Yeah, it's pretty filthy.
But you can easily get from one, well, I shouldn't say easily because it's a little bit difficult to navigate and figure out, and people aren't always apt to help you. Some will, but they don't seem as open to helping.
I've had help before because generally I make friends anywhere I go. People love to help me.
Maybe my biceps scare them off.
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
Probably afraid I'm going to rob them.
Yeah, that is exactly what it is. Remember when I said earlier, let's kick it up a notch on the jokes?
Okay.
I'm waiting for that.
Yeah.
Generally, if you're going to get around New York, long distances, subway, cab, Uber now, but it is a pretty walkable city too. So I've spent a lot of time just on shoe leather in New York City.
What is that?
Walking.
Oh,
walking.
Okay.
Walking around.
Do you have leather shoes?
Okay.
So, what's interesting is I've probably been to New York probably 5 different times, and I have driven in there every single time like a maniac, like an idiot.
I've driven in New York too.
We drove in there.
We did,
and
I've driven
Yeah,
both. You've driven me. Wait a minute, I don't like the way it sounded. Back it up.
Yeah.
I've driven in New York too, and it's not so bad in the boroughs that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Earlier. So it's kind of like, maybe like Atlanta or something. It's kind of hectic, but it's not as terrible as it is in Manhattan, which.
Agree.
Yeah. It's just bumper to bumper and it's a different animal. So I've done that once and once was enough.
Yeah. Not only that, but trying to get into the city itself through the tunnel or Lincoln Tunnel, a bridge, any of those, they're going to be crazy. So, obviously, most people are going to fly, which is probably the best route to go. But, I've been in there, driven a few times. Parking is horrendous.
Yeah.
You can't walk by a car without seeing scratches all over the front end or the back end of the bumpers. But
Yep. So, subway, cab, Uber, buses, just whatever mass
Carriage
transit
rides.
they have. They do have the handsome
Horse-drawn
cab.
carriage.
You can do that. Yeah. One thing that we did, that the first time I went with my wife, which every time I haven't gone with my wife, but, the first time I did, is we did.
Well, you went with me, your favorite person.
That was this, sure. Was a hop-on, hop-off bus. So, the cool thing about that is, you pay for this 24 or 48 hour ticket, and there's different points where you can pick up the bus, and it'll just go all around the city. You'll pass all the big sites. You'll drive down by Wall Street. You'll drive past Central Park. You'll drive, through Five Points, which is where the Gangs of New York was filmed, or that's what the movie's about, not where it was filmed. You'll drive past the Flatiron Building, which is where Peter Parker works, at Daily Bugle. You might see Spider-Man outside that building.
When were we kicking up the jokes again?
I'm still trying.
Okay.
I'm still waiting.
Sure.
But it'll take you past all these points, and you can get off whenever you want. And what we did was we went around once the entire time, and then saw everything and said, okay, well, we're going to go back there. We're going to go back to the Empire State Building. We're going to go back wherever. So then for the next 24 hours, instead of getting a cab. Now, the bad thing is if it's heading south and you want to go north, you're making a big giant hour loop to get to wherever you wanted. So you're probably going to want to grab an Uber or something for that. But if it's just, hey, I'm going to go from here to this next stop down one or two spots, then it's worth doing the hop on, hop off.
Yeah, it's crazy to see how big that city is. I mean, we know it's a big city, but when you're walking it just seems so much bigger. So yeah, you're going to need some of that public transportation or some sort of transportation at some point, even if you like to walk.
Yeah, I agree. So let's talk a little bit about some of the must-sees in New York City. What's your number one thing that you think that you have to see in the city?
Well, when you talk about New York, I think you're thinking about Times Square. So Times Square is so neat to see. It's just so vibrant. It's so bright.
It's a slap in the face.
It really does. It's
day or night.
Yeah. Walking around a corner and it's just right there. And I like it at night, obviously, because it pops even more at night.
Yeah. It pops you all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like it too. It's just, after a couple of days of that, we stayed, and I guess when I can talk about that, I was going to talk about that later where we stayed, places to stay, but
don't get out of order.
I know, but we stayed right there off Times Square and you were ready to shut the curtains.
I can
it's
imagine.
Just so much. It's like, it's like almost like Vegas, but right in a very confined area. One thing that I thought was kind of neat is we went by one of the morning shows. I can't remember which one. It was a Today Show or I don't know.
Yeah.
And you see the morning show and you think that the window opens right up onto Times Square. Well, it does, except the cast is off in front of a green screen and they've got a camera pointing to the people outside the window and to Times Square. So it was really kind of neat to watch because you can see yourself in the camera over there on the green screen that's being projected behind folks who are faking like they're looking out at Times Square. They're turning around and look out the window every now and then, and they're just turning around looking at a green screen.
Well, you went to the wrong one because I actually went one time and we could see them out there filming and we walked by and we could see them out there, the hosts. I can't remember who it was, but it was out of NBC Studios outside the Rockefeller Center. So that was cool to see them out there filming that. By the way, our producer needs to hit us up with some Frank Sinatra, a little New York for this.
Royalties, I have to pay for
Oh,
it.
sorry.
Costs us money.
We can't even say
I'm
that.
sorry.
Yeah,
I didn't mean to say that.
Comment about it. Come on.
New York.
Oh.
Sorry.
No, okay. Yeah. We'll
Sorry.
What are we going to edit that out? Cause
This sounded great.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It sounds great. So what else? What's another must see in New York City?
So Empire State Building, they have also got the new One World building, but I went to the Empire State Building when I was there, and I don't know if you know this, fun fact, that's where I kissed my wife for the very first time.
Nobody knew that. Nobody knew that.
Yeah, it's fun.
And that
fact.
is not a fun.
And
That's
it was
only fun for you. I guarantee you, it's not fun for
the
her
Empire State
or
Building.
anybody listening. So
She
that's
loves
not.
it.
It's not fun at all.
Very romantic.
Yeah. Yeah,
looking
you,
down,
you seem like that.
seeing the rats of New York City. Really cool. But, you know, the Empire State Building, obviously it's
iconic.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, you can go to the top. It's
Takes forever to go to the top.
does.
So you need to be prepared to wait. Even if you have, get one of those TripAdvisor skip the line passes, you're still going to wait for a
City
while.
Pass.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We got a City Pass. Great.
Which is
Great
the City
thing to
Pass?
get.
Tell them about the City Pass because that's important to know.
Well, so I don't remember the specific ins and outs of it, but it got you into
Good job
different
preparing.
attractions. Yeah. But it got you into several different attractions, and it was basically a card that you could show at different places, you know, 4, 5, 6, maybe even a bunch of more places, but places we went to, and it'd give you a reduced discount. And some of them, it might even give you like a skip the line type thing. But City Pass and the New York Pass are two of the ones that I've used. And I'd recommend both because they're highly beneficial, especially if you're going to be there for a few days, if you're going to see a bunch of different sites, if you're going to go to a bunch of different museums. But that's what I used to go up on the Empire State Building.
Which the funny thing about the Empire State Building, we're going to spend some time on all of these kind of iconic things in New York, but is you go all the way up in the elevator and then you're in a room. They kind of herd you into this little cattle area, where you're all in line in this queue, and you go through to the next room and you think, okay, well, I'm finally going to get there. And no, this is another area where they're just kind of, you're in this little cattle, velvet chain thing that you're going through. And then you go up an escalator. Oh, good. We're finally going to be at the top. No, that's another room that you're going to. And then you go up another escalator, and it seems like it takes forever. It is worth it for the view. But I am going to tell you about some place that actually rates higher on TripAdvisor, and I think is an easier and better view, which is Top of the Rock. It's the top of Rockefeller Center.
Oh,
yeah, it's like number 4 on TripAdvisor, and the Empire State Building, believe it or not, is like number 14 or 15 on TripAdvisor. But
Probably because of the long lines.
it could be. But the Top of the Rock, you can see the Empire State Building from there, and it's right, one side of it is right on the edge of Central Park. So you got a great view of Central Park. It is a beautiful site, and not, although there's going to be tons of folks that know about it, not nearly as many people are trying to get up there, and you're just as good of views, a lot less time. So you might do that instead of the Empire State Building. I did both, but I think if you have to choose one, I think I would pick Top of the Rock because it's easier and the view is just as good, maybe better.
Yeah, you can pick a good time to go to the Empire State Building, but you're probably still going to have to wait a little bit because it's iconic.
Yeah. Our wait for Top of the Rock was non-existent.
Yeah. Speaking of, when you were talking about outside the Rockefeller Center, when did you go? What time of year was it?
It was not at Christmas time, which I think you may be going there.
Yeah, I was.
This was in the
Thanks
summer.
for screwing that up.
Yeah, it was in the summer.
Anyway, Christmas tree. It's a sight to see. Very, very cool. Went there, I guess it was probably a few years ago, and just sat there and just kind of watched people, and they had a ice skating rink down there, and watched people slip and slide everywhere. That's pretty awesome. Watch people bite the dust. You know, I'm a little sick and twisted that way, but that was fun. So if you're there around Christmas time, obviously make a point to see that. I mean, you watch the lighting of the Christmas tree on TV, so you might as well go see it in person if you're there.
Yeah. I've never been in the wintertime. Every time I've been, it's been during the summer. Fall.
It gets cold.
Yeah, I believe it. So what else? Someplace that I really enjoyed but don't know that I will ever go again is the 9/11 Museum. It's pretty amazing. The reason I don't know that I would go again, I think everybody needs to see it once because it's heartbreaking.
It is.
It's when you get in there and you see, first of all, waiting to get, have you been there?
Yes.
Okay. So
Very
waiting
somber.
to get in, that big kind of waterfall area where they have all the names, it's the size of one of the buildings, where there's just these hundreds, I guess there's thousands of names etched in this granite, and it's like a waterfall. So that's, heartbreaking in itself. And then seeing the twisted, pieces of the Twin Towers that are there.
Yeah. So I went there before. It was actually completely finished. But it's interesting. You could see like debris from buildings. You know, there's still black marks at the building at the time, you know, years after this happened, where it's still basically stained. So crazy. But yeah, it's a very sombering experience, I guess.
Yeah, it's worth going. I think take a few hours, take your time in it. But again, I think we should go just so that we don't forget. But I don't expect that I will go there again. It makes me think of like maybe what a Holocaust museum might be or something like that. I just wanted to see it, but don't want to see it again.
Agree.
But there are tons of other museums in New York City.
Yeah. So have you done any of those? I'm not a huge museum fan, but they do have some pretty incredible museums up there. The Met, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and Guggenheim and the Museum of Modern Art are three of the faves, three of the ones that I know of.
Yeah.
Anything that you want to add?
No, I know that there are tons of museums. They're rated high on TripAdvisor, but I have not been to any of those museums because there's just too much going on. I'm going to have to go to New York and spend a lot more time there.
Yeah.
When I've gone, it's been a quick trip, and I just want to see. Maybe I'm not cultured. Okay, let me say. I know I'm not cultured, so maybe that's why museums are so low on my priority list. But I have not spent any time in any of those museums.
Yeah. Museum Mile, by the way, just to mention that's where a lot of the museums are. It's apparently a pretty long stretch on Fifth Avenue.
Oh, good job. Did you just look that up?
No.
Yeah, good job.
I knew that. Because I'm educated. I care about museums.
Yeah. I'm okay. Let's talk about, anything else that you want to say for must-sees in New York City?
Well, of course, after we talk about the Empire State Building, or even before, we've got to mention the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
Ellis Island. So when I went, they actually did not allow people, well, one of the times I've went, but they didn't allow people to go to the island. They shut it down for a while. So that's on my to-do list, on my bucket list, actually, next time I go back there. I just think it's so cool.
We had the same thing. So we actually got on a ferry and went to Staten Island. We got on a ferry boat, we're politically correct, and went to Staten Island and passed the Statue of Liberty. So we got to see it that way. And it was neat. It was great to see. I don't know.
Really?
I don't know that I would go back to New York just to see. That's one of those things. Okay, well, you got to see this. You got to see this. And then, it's almost like, the Sistine Chapel or something. You got to see it. And then you get up there and you're like,
what are you talking about?
So that's a story for another time. But yeah.
Okay. So just to make sure, you've basically said you don't need to go to the 9/11 museum again.
No, I said you have to go once.
I said, the Empire State Building
you're making me sound like a dick.
You don't need to go to the Statue
you need to go to the 9/11 museum once. But
probably most iconic places in New York, you've basically said were terrible.
What were the three things? 9/11 museum?
Yeah, Statue of Liberty.
Great to see.
Empire State Building.
And the Empire. Oh yeah. Well, there's just other things that you can see.
There are.
I mean, there are tons
awesome.
of shows. If you're going to spend some time in New York City, go see a show. I mean, much rather see a show than go see the Statue of Liberty. We saw Wicked there, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And lots of great jazz. We went to, my wife and I went to Birdland, which is a kind of a historic jazz club, and hung out there and paid for some very expensive drinks. And
what is expensive?
I don't know because I just lost count as I was guzzling them down. Just keep them coming.
That's weird.
But the jazz was great.
They do seem to get more expensive if you don't remember paying for them or ordering them.
But there's just tons of things to do in New York, especially the shows and so forth. So,
yeah, there's so many shows. I mean, we could never even attempt to hit all the shows that are there that are staples there or that just come and go. But that's a huge thing to do, obviously, and that people just make an entire week out of that and just go to show after show after show. So definitely go see a show while you're there.
See a show.
Yeah, so go sewing too. That's fine.
Let's talk about places to eat in New York City.
But what if I wasn't done talking about other
Let's talk about other must-sees. I asked you if you were done like 3 times.
When?
I said, what else? And you just sat there and looked at me. So is there something else that you want to talk about besides food?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't always have to talk about food.
Yeah, you talk about it a lot.
I do. I love food. Wall Street. How are you going to talk about New York without talking about
Well,
Wall
we
Street?
talked about driving by Wall Street on the hop on, hop off, and we go back down there and see the bull and all that kind of stuff.
You mess with the bull, you get the horns.
Oh God. How many bad cliches are you going to pull out? So talk about Wall Street. Tell me about it.
No, I'm done. Forget it now.
Good.
That's
Let's
all
talk
I
about
want to
food. I was ready to move on. Let's talk about food. So I know that you.
What about the Brooklyn Bridge?
Jesus.
You want to talk about?
Come on.
Okay, let's move on. Sorry about that. Did we talk about Central Park?
We talked about driving by it.
Yeah.
I haven't spent any real time in Central Park.
Why not?
Because it's a park. It's you can
So you
see
don't go
it
to parks or museums.
from the top of the rock. You can see it, and it's beautiful. It's just this big green giant patch that they've cut out and left as a park.
It's a giant patch in the most condensed structural city probably in the world. It's really neat to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just forget it.
It's a park. We have parks in my hometown.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't have good Broadway in my hometown. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, whatever. Okay, let's move on to food, I guess. We don't have anything else to talk about.
Good.
For you rich people, go to Fifth Avenue too, by the way. Spend lots of money on Fifth Avenue. That's all I wanted to say about that.
Okay.
Do you have anything you want to talk about food, or do you want me to talk
No,
about?
I'm waiting for you to start.
Okay, so let's talk about, if we're going to talk about food, I want to talk about Chinatown and Little Italy. And you and I have got a great story about Little Italy, and I don't really recall it very well, so I'm going to let you tell it. But
so it's not that great. So we have a great story that I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't really.
Yeah, you and I were in New York City just on a day trip, doing something else for work, and decided to go to Little Italy and eat. And as we walked down, a very flamboyant maitre d' thought that we might be a couple and set us at a romantic table for two. And the wait staff was very nice to us. And then at the end, I think somebody kind of had their eye on you because they brought us a free dessert.
Whatever it
and
takes
we
to get
split
a free dessert.
Free dessert and 2 spoons. Yeah.
Was there 2 spoons?
2 spoons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
Did you think there was 1 spoon?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that weird of a story. Yeah. You kind of remember that. You don't remember the flamboyant maitre d'.
I do a little bit.
Were you drunk?
Yes, I was driving through New York City drunk. Yes.
Everybody else does.
Well, they act like it. I don't know that they are drunk, but wow. Yeah. So Chinatown, Little Italy, really cool places.
That's a hard left.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's make a hard right then.
Paul's given us the signal.
Our producer basically said you're an idiot.
Yeah, well,
without saying anything.
Yeah. On a regular basis.
Pizza? You want to talk about pizza?
Yeah.
New York City pizza?
Every place. There's no bad pizza in New York. At least no bad pizza that I've tried. Every place you stop for pizza.
Sbarro?
I have not eaten Sbarro in New York City.
Oddly enough, I actually have.
Oh.
As a joke. But yes, I actually have. And it was fantastic. But anyway, try an authentic New York pizza place as well while you're there.
Just any hole in the wall. Just pull into any, or walk into any hole in the wall pizza place.
Pull into any
hole. And just grab a slice. The pizza is delicious.
Oh.
And another place
pull into any hole.
Pull into any hole. I'll tell you one place that I ate that is not in Little Italy, but it's great Italian, is Patsy's. Patsy's has tons of reviews on TripAdvisor. It was Frank Sinatra's. It's not now because he's not with us, but it was Frank Sinatra's favorite.
I said Frank Sinatra earlier.
It was Frank Sinatra's favorite restaurant in New York City. And they've got all kinds of memorabilia with him, of pictures of him and memorabilia on the walls and so forth. But we went and had a great meal in Patsy's. It's just on the edge of Hell's Kitchen, which you know is where Daredevil lives. It's where all the food places. Oh gosh, yeah.
Daredevil?
Daredevil. Come on, man. Don't
like
you know Marvel Comics? Yeah, Daredevil.
Oh, okay.
He lives in Hell's Kitchen.
I get it.
Come on.
I get it.
Man, these jokes are wasted on you.
That was a joke?
Well, these comments are wasted on you. But it's kind of right off Broadway. It's near Carnegie Hall.
Hope we can edit that out.
And again, it's got fun. We're not editing anything out that I say. If there's any edits, we're editing out what you say. Let's understand that. Let's get that straight. But Patsy's 4.5 stars on TripAdvisor. Like I said, there's about 2,500 reviews, and the vast majority of them are excellent reviews. The food was great. The atmosphere was great. It's on 56th Street, which is just a couple of blocks away from where they film the Stephen Colbert Show, and it's right off Broadway. There's tons of things to do around there. So I would definitely recommend.
You're all
Patsy's.
about dropping stuff about where stuff was filmed and more people, for movies.
Well,
what about Seinfeld? Seinfeld's a great.
Yeah, I have actually.
Friends?
I don't. Friends was in Seattle, you idiot.
What are you talking about? Central Park, you moron.
Isn't Friends in Seattle?
Somebody tell him how stupid he is.
Thank goodness I have never watched that show, but I think it might have been in Seattle.
I can't wait to prove you wrong. This is going to be so magical. Go ahead while I'm looking this up.
What was I talking about?
I don't know, but Patsy's.
It's great.
Did they?
Frank Sinatra's
did they play
restaurant
Frank Sinatra
in New
music
York.
Or no during?
They had some standards, just like a standard station.
Oh, Friends is based in what city? New York City. That's weird. Huh. Seattle, that seems close to New York City. I don't know.
Same difference.
Not great with a map.
We'll do Seattle another day.
Where Friends is apparently not. Anyway.
Okay, so what else do we need to talk about from New York City?
I don't know that we got a whole lot else to talk about. I'm a huge sports fan, so we can talk about the sports teams very briefly. They've got Yankee Stadium,
Nobody
Madison
wants
Square
to talk
Garden.
about the Yankees.
Well, I mean, I don't like the Yankees, but Madison Square Garden, it's probably the most famous basketball arena in the world. That's where the New York Knicks play. It's where they play hockey. The New York Rangers play hockey. The Barclays is in Brooklyn. That's where the Brooklyn Nets play, and the New York Islanders, and then Citi Field, which is where the Mets play, the New York Mets baseball team play. But anyway, so I'm a huge sports fan, so I enjoy going to any kind of sporting event that I can go to.
Sounds like you just looked up those things on
I have been
Google.
to 3 of those 4. Anyway.
Yeah, okay. You didn't even talk about Meadowlands, or whatever it's called now.
Oh, yeah. That's true. Odell Beckham's catch. You want to tell your story about that?
Damn it.
That was so
awesome.
What did you think about that catch?
So on another occasion, we were in New York City for
we've traveled
for
a lot.
day. Yeah, we did travel a lot. And we went to see it was a Sunday night game. Went to see the Sunday night game, maybe 2 or 3 games into the season. You'll know what game I'm talking about because it's the one that they show the replay of on ESPN 1,000,000 times every football season. Where Odell Beckham catches it one hand in the end zone. It was they had just gone to commercial break, and I was busting and said, "Man, I'm going to run to the bathroom." And I jumped up and ran to the bathroom, and while I'm there, I hear everything erupts. The good news is they have cameras or they have monitors in the bathroom. So as everybody erupts, I look up and, seeing that catch, and I come back and, you're sitting there saying, "Man, you just missed the greatest catch." And
literally
didn't matter because I've seen it 1,000,000 times.
The greatest catch of all time.
And so I was in the stadium. We were in that end zone.
We were.
We were on the other side of the field in that end zone. Great seats, kind of in the corner. And we had a, perfect view of where the catch was, and one of us got to see it, and the other one's an idiot with a small bladder.
Well, that's what happens when you're 80. Or you have a bladder of an 80-year-old. But yeah,
I don't have a bladder of an 80-year-old. I have a bladder of a 7-year-old girl. So calm down.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so I think unless you have anything to add, I think we've talked about all we need to talk about in New York. What is it that you think we need to add to this?
I don't know that I have anything else to add. I think we've covered everything pretty well.
So what are your final thoughts about New York?
In summary, my final thoughts.
Every time.
It's my thing.
Oh man, you need to lose that thing. Okay, in summary, what are your final thoughts?
In summary, it's the biggest city in the U.S. It's probably got the most tourists from any other country, from all the other countries combined in the U.S., if not L.A. So I think it's worth seeing for sure. It's a really cool city. There's so many different things for whoever wants to go there. There's museums. You know, if you're not much of a museum person.
Do we have wrap it up music? Can we play some wrap it up music?
Okay, just go to New York City. Always travel, but go to New York City.
That was Lee. I'm Troy. This is Why Would You Go There? And remember, even though both of us love New York, even if it's someplace that you hate, it is better to go someplace you hate than to not go anyplace at all. Okay? See you. We're out.
Later.
Okay. When I say we're out, we're out.
I get the last word.
Okay, whatever. Okay. What'd you think?
Last word.
Okay? What did you think about that? Were you okay?
Yeah, that's good. Okay. That's good. Yeah. You botched my in summary part for sure, but I feel like I handled it pretty well.
Can you end with the in summary? I mean, by end with it, I mean leave it.
Just say in summary.
Yeah, we're done. We're done with the in summary. We're done with it. Just leave it alone.